Greenland. A giant island lost between the cold waves of the Atlantic and the Arctic, covered in eternal snows, under which countless riches slumber. A land where ice hides the secrets of centuries, where harsh winds whisper stories of brave Vikings, rebellious Inuit, and powerful states that fought for its possession. It all began more than 1,000 years ago, when the brave navigator Eric the Red, exiled from Iceland for murder, saw a new land on the horizon. He called it the Greenland, although it was covered in snow, a cunning move to lure settlers. The Vikings, clad in furs and steel armor, crossed the icy desert, brought European civilization here, and built settlements. They raised cattle, built wooden churches, traded with Norway. But fate had no mercy. Nature declared war on the colonists. Cold, hunger, enemy raids, all this wiped the Vikings from the face of Greenland. And when Europe remembered this land, only silent ruins remained of the once powerful settlements. But the island was never deserted. The Inuit, the true masters of the Arctic, were not afraid of either icy deserts or storms. They hunted whales, tamed the ocean in their tiny kayaks, survived where Europeans perished. Their wisdom was passed down from generation to generation, their legends sounded to the howling of the wind. They ruled here until in the 18th century European ships appeared on the horizon again. Denmark, which had long forgotten about this icy world, suddenly remembered it. It stretched out its hands here, took control of trade, and conquered a people accustomed to living freely. Greenland became a colony, part of an empire that ruled over these cold spaces. But unlike the cruel conquerors of the past, Denmark brought not only restrictions but also development to the island. When a tuberculosis epidemic broke out in Greenland in the 19th century, threatening to destroy an entire generation of Inuit, the Danes launched a real medical war. They built hospitals, sent doctors, fought diseases that had been mowing down the locals for centuries. With each decade, the infrastructure improved. Roads, bridges, ports appeared. Remote fishing villages gained access to education, children attended schools, and traditional fishing and hunting were modernized. Greenland was changing, becoming part of the world, emerging from the shadows. However, this time the newcomers were interested not in the land, but in the sea. The waters around Greenland teemed with life. Here, among the icebergs and cold currents, countless schools of fish hid, and most importantly whales. Large fat, they became the prey of European whalers, who sought their valuable blubber, which illuminated the lanterns of London, Copenhagen, and Amsterdam. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the English, Dutch, and Danes rushed to master this fishery. Huge sailing ships filled the bays, harpoons flew into the depths, and the sea turned red with blood. Whale blubber turned into gold, filled the treasury, and gave light and warmth to Europe. But the whalers did not just come and go. They contacted the locals, exchanged goods, taught the Inuit to use new tools. Some even settled on the island, and the Greenlanders, in turn, adopted European traditions. Thus, Greenland gradually came under Danish influence. However, Greenland became not only a strategic object, but also an arena of international disputes. In the 1930s, Norway tried to challenge Danish ownership of the island, claiming that it had historical rights to part of it. The case went to the League of Nations, which eventually ruled in Denmark's favor. This became an important precedent in international law, securing Danish sovereignty over the island. World War II brought further adjustments. When the Nazis occupied Denmark, Greenland was left without a central government. The United States quickly filled this void. They concluded an agreement with the local authorities and began building strategic airfields. The runways in the permafrost became key points for transatlantic transportation and military operations. American troops remained on the island after the war, laying the foundation for a future military presence in the Arctic. Then came the Cold War. The Soviet Union and the United States, as two giants competing for world domination, could not help but pay attention to this icy bastion. The Americans strengthened their presence, built secret facilities that monitored the enemy. Greenland turned into an Arctic citadel, a strategic hub on which the security of the West depended. And while the geopolitical games continued, the island hid in its depths riches that could change the course of history. Oil, gas, gold, uranium, rare earth metals, all this was dormant under ice shells. But the ice began to melt. World leaders looked at Greenland with new interest. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, made a sensational offer, to buy the island from Denmark. His ambition was not groundless. American strategists had long seen Greenland as the key to control over the Arctic. But Denmark, offended and indignant, sharply rejected this idea. The island remained Danish for now. But Greenland is not just a piece of ice. It is a land fighting for its independence. In 2009, it received self-government, and its inhabitants dream of complete freedom from Denmark. But is this possible? Will Greenland be able to survive without financial support if its natural resources have not yet been fully discovered? The world is looking at this land with interest and greed. China, the USA, Europe, everyone wants a piece of the Arctic pie. And Greenland, quiet and harsh, remains at a crossroads. Will it become independent? Will it turn into a new training ground for world superpowers? Do you think Greenland will be able to overcome its history of colonialism and find a path to independence? Share your opinion in the comments. We are interested in knowing what you think about the future of this icy island. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you are interested in such fascinating stories about world events and their impact on modern times.